服持ってるな。あんたには似合わないよ。
約束する。
Welcome to Cyberpunk Edgerunners. The series is set in a dystopian future where humans and technology have merged to create a world of violence, corruption, and advanced cybernetic implants. The story follows a group of street kids known as Edgerunners who are hired to complete various dangerous and illegal tasks in the city known as Night City. The first episode begins with a sweeping aerial shot of Night City's neon-lit skyscrapers, showcasing a dazzling top-down view of Corpo Plaza at night. In a brief moment, the camera focuses on Nusa Military Lieutenant Colonel James Norris before transitioning to a crime scene in progress. Over the sounds of police chatter, the scene cuts to Norris, heavily outfitted with cyberware, going cyber psycho and shooting a cop through the window of his car. As he relentlessly attacks the remaining NCPD officers, Norris activates his Sandevistan. However, MaxTac quickly intervenes, expertly hacking Norris' system and ultimately neutralizes him. The audience subsequently comes to the realization that the action they witnessed was, in fact, a brain dance. This revelation is followed by the introduction of David Martinez, who has just viewed Norris's memory of the violent occurrence in his mother's apartment. It is at this point that Doc reaches out to David, acknowledging that he had obtained the BD directly from the skilled editor, Jimmy Kurosaki. As a new morning dawns, David is fixated on his wet school uniforms tumbling in the washing machine. He seeks out his mother, who works as an emergency medical technician, in the living room to discuss a financial matter. Gloria is willing to fund David's necessary update for his class, but he insists that Doc has already helped him with this issue and there is no need to worry. Their conversation is abruptly interrupted by Network News 54, which delivers the shocking news of Lieutenant Colonel James Norris' death and missing cyberware. Despite the tragic news, David is excited to see his mother appear on TV. However, her uneasiness hints at something more concerning. She quickly ends the program and sends David off to school. Before the scene transitions to David on his way to school, Gloria makes a call to someone named Maine, but the audience is left in the dark about the details of their conversation. The sudden shift in focus leaves the viewer wondering about the significance of this call. David is first seen wandering through the crowded and run-down streets while listening to an upbeat tune. At one point, he catches a glimpse of a girl with white hair, but before he can approach her, she disappears into the sea of people. Upon arriving at Arasaka Academy, David's AI teacher immediately chides him for not wearing his uniform. However, his arrival is not met with warm regards, as Katsuo Tanaka, a privileged student, launches a verbal attack on David and belittles his tech knowledge. Despite the criticism, David remains confident and boasts about his ways of obtaining the expensive Wreath update. Regrettably, David's confidence quickly dwindles in the subsequent meditation session. Moreover, his illegal software causes considerable harm to the system, culminating in a catastrophic outcome. In spite of his ardent attempts, David cannot rectify the issue and is ultimately left with a sense of defeat. The next scene begins as Gloria and David find themselves in the principal's office, a situation that is incredibly embarrassing for Gloria. The principal starts questioning Gloria about her financial situation and calls out David's misbehavior in class, strongly suggesting that it would be better for him to leave Arasaka Academy. Despite this, Gloria insists that David has every right to attend the school and promises to cover the cost of the repairs. As they make their way home in their car, Gloria's anger towards David only intensifies, and they continue to discuss the situation until David finally reaches the conclusion that he has no future at Arasaka. Gloria is heartbroken by this realization since she wants nothing more than for David to succeed in life. She even takes on extra work hours to support him, but it seems like it's all for nothing. Suddenly, the ride comes to an abrupt end when a gang vehicle from the animals pulls up beside them and opens fire. Despite Gloria's best efforts to avoid it, their car collides with another, and David is left buried under the wreckage with flames licking at his skin. In the distance, he can see his mother lying on the street, adding to his already immense sense of horror and despair. As the trauma team arrives on the scene, David and Gloria both hope for a chance at first aid, but they are denied since they are not clients of the service. The scene that follows depicts David's successful attempt to rescue his mother and take her to a dilapidated hospital where she undergoes surgery. Once the operation is complete, the surgeon hands David a bag containing his mother's belongings, though she must remain in the hospital. Upon arriving back at their apartment, David is hit with the realization that they have fallen behind on rent and the apartment is locked. In a bold move, he decides to break in through a window. As he rummages through the bag, he comes across Norris's Sandevistan, the very same cyberware that was missing from the Cyber Psycho incident earlier in the episode. Without hesitation, he offers the implant to Doc, but the Ripper Doc is only willing to pay a mere $10,000 for it, causing David to become enraged and hang up the call. Driven by curiosity, David begins to research the implant further. The next scene commences with the following morning as David embarks on his journey to school once more. As he sets out, his mind drifts back to the captivating image of the girl with the dancing white hair that he had caught a glimpse of the day before. However, this time the image transforms into the disapproving countenance of Katsuo, and David's heart sinks. Before we continue, take a moment to answer the question of the day. What is the best duo in anime? For me, it's gotta be CC and Lelouch probably, or probably Makise and Okabe. Comment down below for a chance to be shouted out with your answer, and now back to the recap. As David turns into an alley, he finds himself face to face with Katsuo, who begins to bully him once more. With brute force, Katsuo unleashes his Strong Arms 400 with a martial arts chipware and beats David up mercilessly. David is left wounded and broken, collapsing in the alleyway. The clinic notifies David of his mother's untimely demise, and he is left reeling from the news. Overwhelmed with grief, he takes his mother's cremated remains, donning her EMT jacket, and wanders the night city streets. As he walks, David is bombarded with a plethora of voice messages. One such message is from the principal, who expresses his condolences and provides payment details that Gloria had sent prior to her death. In the same breath, he brings up the subject of David's potential transfer to another institution. As David returns home to the apartment with the ashes, he is rightfully depressed. However, his mood quickly changes as he offers the illegal cyberware to Doc once again, only to have the offer denied. Doc states that he would now only pay $6,000 for it. This news devastates David, and he finds himself unable to cope with the situation. To make matters worse, a call from Katsuo adds insult to injury as he mocks David's mother's death. In his anger and grief, David's eyes suddenly focus on the cyberware in the bag, and he sees his chance for revenge. After some convincing, Doc finally agrees to install the Sandevistan, which grants David superhuman strength, speed, and reflexes. With his new abilities, David returns to school and beats up Katsuo in full view of the security cameras. Unfortunately, this results in his expulsion from the academy. However, Katsuo's father Tanaka, an Arasaka executive, notices David's use of the Sandevistan and sees him as a valuable test subject for Arasaka's latest product. As David aimlessly wanders the city, he meets Lucy, a young netrunner who agrees to take him on as a partner. Together, they spend a night pickpocketing marks on the subway, but David collapses due to overuse of the Sandevistan. Concerned for his well-being, Lucy takes him back to Doc, who prescribes immunosuppressants and warns David not to use the Sandevistan more than 2 or 3 times a day, regardless of his high tolerance for it. Lucy invites David to her apartment, where she confides in him about her dream of migrating off-world to the moon. She even shows him a virtual reconstruction of the moon's surface. However, things take a turn for the worse when Lucy reveals that she has sold David out to a gang of edge runners. David is confronted by the gang, led by a man named Main. Main reveals that Gloria had sold the Sandevistan to him a day before her death and that he is one of her acquaintances. Initially surprised, David reveals that he's Gloria's son and offers to work for Main. He demonstrates his compatibility with the Sandevistan, hoping to gain Main's trust. Intrigued by David's offer, Main honors his friendship with Gloria by giving David a chance to prove himself. After the confrontation, David returns home with a heavy heart, as he has lost his trust in Lucy. However, the next day, David meets up with the gang again, and Main introduces him to the other members, Kiwi, Dorio, and Pilar. Together, they plan a heist to steal navigation data from Maxim, a driver for Arasaka. Unfortunately, their plan goes awry due to unexpected complications. David and Lucy are forced to steal Maxim's limo to gain the data they need. Fortunately, Main rescues them from a Tiger Claw biker sent by Maxim to kill them. David's performance on the job impresses Main, and he officially inducts David into the gang. David also meets Main's fixer, Faraday, who brought them the job of stealing Maxim's navigation data to obtain information on Tanaka's movements. Shortly after, David receives a message from the Academy offering to let him return. However, he bluntly turns them down, feeling that he has found a sense of purpose and belonging with Main and the gang. As a new recruit, David is not only learning the ropes of the gang, but also developing close relationships with his fellow members. He receives training and guidance from them, which involves a variety of tasks such as running errands for Pilar and Rebecca, honing his driving skills with Main, and jogging at night with Lucy. In addition, David actively participates in various jobs with the crew, such as taking down a group of scavengers, rescuing Rebecca from the dangerous Maelstrom gang, and assisting Lucy with her pickpocketing skills. Despite spending a lot of time with Lucy, David admits to Main that he has feelings for her but is unsure if his affection is reciprocated. As time passes, David begins to feel more at ease with his new family. However, their sense of security is shattered when Pilar gets into a fatal altercation with a cyber-psycho. The homeless man, who is being harassed by Pilar, suddenly reveals himself to be a threat and takes Pilar's life with a concealed weapon. In the face of danger, David springs into action and uses his Sandevistan to shoot the cyber-psycho while Main finishes him off. The experience leaves David feeling shaken, but he's able to pull himself together and take Lucy home to safety. There, Lucy confides in David about her deepest desire, to go to the moon. Overwhelmed with emotion, David promises to fulfill her dream, and the two share a passionate kiss. Finally, my boy is on his way to becoming the Rizzler. Just kidding.
そして何より荒坂が編み出したポイントは指向性の重力波と磁それが俺の流儀だ地獄までな
The fifth episode of Cyberpunk Edgerunners commences with Main and David in the Edgerunners headquarters, still grappling with the recent and unexpected loss of their colleague, Pilar. The techie's remains are laid out on the table before them, including his prized golden cyber hands. In the midst of their contemplation, Kiri arrives on the scene, fresh from a thorough data scanning session. She has gathered valuable intel on their target, Tanaka, which could help them get one step closer to avenging Pilar's death. What surprises Main is when Kiwi begins recounting David's past, specifically his time at the Arasaka Academy, where he had been classmates with Tanaka's son. Kiwi also stumbles upon Tanaka's passion for the works of someone who goes by the initials JK, which David deduces to be none other than the brilliant brain-dance editor Jimmy Kurosaki. With this information in hand, the Edgerunners devise a plan to capture Tanaka during his next visit to Kurosaki's studio. They intend to exploit his weakness for exclusive BDs, and Kiwi is tasked with uncovering Kurosaki's reservation at the popular hangout spot, Embers. Together, they set to work on this intricate plan, determined to bring justice to Pilar's death and set things right. First part of their plan is to get their hands on Jimmy Kurosaki and to win him for their cause. They want to kidnap him from the parking deck, but Jimmy knows how to protect himself and uses his EMP weapon to incapacitate most of the crew. Kurosaki abducts David instead and drives off with them to his studio. Only Lucy and Doryo can still operate and follow him in their car. In the following scene, David finds himself inside a brutal BD and is tormented by Jimmy with Norris's last memories. Lucy and Doryo arrive, but Jimmy also has a protection for this place, and 2 drones begin their attack on the intruders. Lucy can free David from the BD and begins hacking the drones, while David is distracting them. Jimmy finally has to give in and is impressed by Lucy's quick hacking abilities. He agrees to help the Edge Runners and to follow their plan. The master BD editor reveals to David more about how he always gets his fresh material, and that David should be careful with his implants. Jimmy has seen many who thought they could chrome up without any consequences, and many of them found their place in his Edge Runner series. The second part of their plan seems to be simple now. Lure Tanaka to Jimmy's studio with the promise of a new special BD. Tanaka arrives, despite his son is about to be released from the hospital. Suspicious, he follows Kurosaki and soon finds himself surrounded by the Edge Runners, who disabled his panic button. Tanaka doesn't intend to follow their orders, and a fight ensues. Main's arm-integrated gun malfunctions again, and Tanaka recognizes David. Tanaka's last resort is his ability to shoot myriads of needles from his hands. However, Main gains the upper hand and can bring Tanaka down with a powerful punch. Meanwhile, Jimmy was hit by one of Tanaka's needles and is dying. Main's crew must flee in a hurry because the trauma team is about to arrive for Jimmy. They take Tanaka with them and the episode comes to an end. Main begins developing signs of cyberpsychosis as he starts having trouble controlling his implants, randomly blacks out, hallucinates, and his significant mood swings culminating in him losing his self-control and suddenly assaulting Kiwi as she tries to hack into Tanaka's cyberware, seriously injuring her. Lucy agrees to take Kiwi's place, but only under the condition that Main is kept away and David accompanies her. As Lucy dives into Tanaka's mind, Tanaka regains consciousness and begs David to let him go, telling him that he was responsible for rescinding his expulsion from the academy. He still has a future there, and that the Edge Runners will kill him after they extract his information to tie up loose ends. This causes David to hesitate long enough that Tanaka's neural implant shorts out, risking killing Lucy too. Doryo disconnects Lucy safely, but the gang's jammer is disabled, resulting in Trauma Team receiving Tanaka's vitals and en route with the NCPD as support. Main sends David and Lucy to their escape vehicle first, while he and Doryo take Tanaka to distract the authorities. However, during the battle, Main begins to succumb to his cyberpsychosis, resulting in Doryo's death when she attempts to protect him. David tries to rescue Main from the heavily armed police forces, but can only watch as a regretful Main blows himself up along with Doryo's corpse, leaving David to flee with Main's cybernetic arms. A few months after Tanaka's botched kidnapping, David has become the new leader of Main's Edge Runner group, having taken on more implants, including Main's arm implants, and becoming a renowned Edge Runner himself. However, he's been unable to convince Lucy to rejoin the crew. After completing a job for the fixer Wakako to rescue a VIP from the Maelstrom gang, David is approached by Faraday, who offers him a job from Militech against Arasaka as a test to see if he is worthy of inheriting Main's last job to recover the data Tanaka was hiding. Faraday also requests that David try to recruit Lucy again. Returning home, David talks with Lucy, wanting to know more about her past. She reveals that she was part of a special team of child net runners raised and trained by Arasaka to delve into the old net to recover lost data. However, the work was hazardous as it exposed them to rogue AIs and malware, which killed much of the team. Eventually, Lucy escaped Arasaka and ended up in Night City. She also admits that while she used to only worry about herself, she is now more worried about David's health. Later, Lucy kills an Arasaka agent investigating data about a test subject that was mysteriously erased from Tanaka's records. Taking on Faraday's job, David kills an Arasaka lab director but shows signs of cyberpsychosis and murders an innocent woman who walked in on him killing the director. Meanwhile, Arasaka Counterintelligence is investigating the mysterious deaths of Arasaka personnel. Believing Militech to be involved, they arrange an assassination attempt on Faraday, who narrowly escapes. With Militech refusing to protect due to his lack of results on recovering data on Arasaka's cyberskeleton project, Faraday makes contact with Arasaka instead. Arasaka is willing to forgive Faraday for Tanaka's death in return for him tracking down the netrunner responsible for hiding Tanaka's data and killing their agents. Meanwhile, David continues to show more symptoms of cyberpsychosis and suffers from trauma over killing an innocent staff member that reminded him of his mother. Doc recommends that David scale back on his implants only to be attacked by David, thus souring the relationship. David once again tries to recruit Lucy, but she insists there's something she has to take care of first, and David considers breaking up with her. Lucy then detects another Arasaka agent looking for Tanaka's data and heads over to kill him, only to fall into a trap set by Faraday and Kiwi. After interrogating Lucy, Faraday and Kiwi discover that Lucy has been actively hiding Tanaka's data on David as a potential test subject for the cyberskeleton, and was responsible for Tanaka's death to ensure his silence. Realizing this, Faraday plans to offer Lucy and David up to Arasaka to secure his position in the company. Faraday assigns David a mission to assault an Arasaka convoy to carry this out. David recruits the help of Kiwi, Rebecca, and Falco, and they manage to seize the convoy's main cargo, which is revealed to be the cyberskeleton. A Militech force then arrives thanks to a tip from Faraday, who intends to force David to install the cyberskeleton and use it to destroy the Militech force as a demonstration of its power. Kiwi makes her escape as Faraday impersonates Lucy to trick him into installing the cyberskeleton. Lucy is able to escape briefly and warns David about Faraday's duplicity before being recaptured. Angered, David uses the cyberskeleton to annihilate the Militech force despite its massive toll on his body. He then tells Rebecca and Falco they will rescue Lucy and get revenge on Faraday. David fights through Militech, Arasaka, and Max Tac forces as he, Rebecca, and Falco head for Arasaka Tower. All the while, David's condition continues to deteriorate as he runs out of immunosuppressants. Meanwhile, Kiwi has second thoughts about working with Faraday and decides to cut ties with him, so he has her killed as a loose end regarding the cyberskeleton. Before she dies, Kiwi tips off David and the others on Faraday and Lucy's location. David attacks the tower, killing the Arasaka guards, rescuing Lucy, and incapacitating Faraday. Realizing the situation has spiraled out of control, Arasaka deploys legendary cyborg Atom Smasher to put David down. During the battle, Faraday is thrown to his death by Atom Smasher, who then fatally crushes Rebecca. David tasks Falco with getting Lucy to safety while he stays behind to hold Atom Smasher off. Despite having the cyberskeleton, David is no match for the more experienced Atom Smasher, but he dies content with the knowledge that Lucy is safe and has no regrets. Sometime later, Lucy fulfills her dream of traveling to the moon, but is despondent that David is not there with her. What a depressing ending. If only things had been a little different, then our boy David wouldn't have had to die. Go check out our other recaps, and don't forget to like and subscribe.